Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 23 career mode. And today we're here for the 14th round of our full Moto3 season for the San Marino Grand Prix at Misano. Now, if you didn't see the last episode at the Catalan Grand Prix, I do recommend you go check that one out. It was a pretty good one. We had to adjust the AI difficulty a couple of times throughout the episode to try and get it right, but I think in the end we did strike a good balance where we were relatively competitive but not overpowered or anything. We did manage to come home with another podium, our first of the second half of the season. However, between that episode and this episode, Milestone did release a new patch, which was mainly the Moto2 livery update, which is great for when we get into Moto2. However, there was one thing that they have done. They have adjusted the AI. Apparently, just the AI power modes. That's what they claim to edit, and apparently after feedback. I don't know whose feedback this is. I think a lot of people were complaining about the AI being overpowered. For me, that was fantastic. I loved it, but for whatever reason, they have decided to change it, and I have tested it, and it has changed a lot. I'm sure it's not just power mode. I'm sure there's also been some other changes. But basically, we go to the race settings right now. You can see we're on 100% difficulty right now. I have basically been using between 95 and 100 usually throughout most of this season. I've been swapping between the two, perhaps going somewhere in the middle. I think I thought I'd actually gone to 98 at Catalonia, but this would literally be straight after. So maybe I actually went to 100 and I got that one wrong. But either way, we've been floating between 95 and 100. And now I need to turn it up to 120%, which is a difficulty we touched at about 2 rounds. So in fairness, this could be a Misano specific thing, but I did also test at Catalonia and they did seem slower there too, although I also seemed a little bit quicker, so there was a bit of a disparity. But yeah, we're going to be running 120% from this episode onwards. Obviously, we'll see at each track again. I'll continue to do my testing, but the AI are miles slower. They are ridiculously slow compared to how they were before, which is a shame because I was really enjoying that one. Sorry about this little rant at the beginning, but I just want to explain that we've now put the AI up to 120, so I can't turn them up any further if we are too fast. There's nothing I can do. I just wanted to show you guys that and be completely transparent with what Milestone have done here. But I always thought that this round would probably be quite good for us, but to be honest, if it's dry, I'd be very surprised if we don't dominate the entire weekend. But you know what, this game has thrown some spanners in the works before, and it could very well do again. So we'll head into the weekend now then, and hopefully we're on the pace, but hopefully not too fast. Hopefully it's not a domination. So this is what I mean. If we look at the end of free practice, we are 1.1 seconds quicker than the closest AI on now the hardest AI difficulty. This is a result of what they've done, because this could even be simulated times to an extent. I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't have thought that would be changed if they've changed how they applied the power modes, but I think they've just nerfed the AI, and I think they've just summed it up as that because, well, I don't really have to explain it. You guys that have been watching the career mode the whole season, you know how much I've been struggling just to fight with them, and I've really enjoyed it, just on like 90 to 100% difficulty. We've upped it by 20 extra percent, and we're now way quicker than we have been this whole season. So that is a bit of a shame, but we do have a little bit of a spanner in the works. Qualifying is wet, and the race starts dry, but does end up raining. So we have got a little bit of jeopardy this weekend. We might not qualify on pole, we might not win the race because of the wet weather, but to be honest, I'm expecting we'll struggle a bit in qualifying, and then maybe the rain won't come till later in the race. I don't know, could be absolutely anything. Something else I completely forgot to mention, by the way, before going into this race, is that we actually have to beat Ortola in this one. That is the turning point that we currently have, and with him down in P18 in practice, that certainly helped us out, and with the pace we've got, I really do think Ortola will struggle to beat us. But either way, I'll try and remain somewhat positive with this. We'll head into qualifying now then, and hopefully it's a closer affair. With it being wet, I think it will be. I don't think we'll be on pole position, because even with this new AI nerf, I don't think they'll still be slow in the wet, because even in the previous games, which were about this pace, they were pretty fast in the wet. So here we are then in Qualified 2, and you can see, going through Q1, we've got Ivan Ortola, as you'd probably expect, because it was a little bit weird for him to be in that session anyway. Although, to be fair, he has had a few off weekends where he's been down towards that end of the grid. And we've got the 2 Honda Team Asia bikes, Agi and Forasato, along with one of the Snipers bikes, Bertelli. So I'm not really sure how this qualified session is going to go, to be honest. I don't know how they're going to be in the wet. I mean, it's nice to have to worry about tyres for once. With obviously being a wet session, we don't have to worry about the dry tyres. I think it definitely could be a turning point in this weekend, because we've had every time, really, that we should have won a race so far, something's intervened, whether it be weather. At Jerez, for example, we actually had a similar scenario. We were on top of the free practice times by a decent amount, even on the difficulty we were using. Then qualifying was wet, so we qualified okay. The race started off wet, we plummeted to the back, had a few laps of the dry weather at the end after the race got stopped, and we did get our way back through. Just trying to think of other races that we probably could have won. Portimao, we probably could have won if the Ortola wasn't completely dominant. Probably could have won at Kazakhstan if Joe Kelso. So there always seems to be some weird scenario that kind of stops us from winning. And I do feel like that could potentially strike again here. I mean, we clearly have the pace to win. If the race is straightforward and dry, then we should win. I can't see why we would lose. But of course, if we qualify maybe down in the order here, we could get stuck in the pack, or we could get knocked off by an AI or something. You never know what might happen, but judging by the way we're gaining on Sasaki, it looks like even in the rain we're going to have decent pace, although, to be fair, that was pretty terrible through Tremonto. Must say I got a bit of deja vu, actually, to catching Sasaki there, because I literally caught him in the same manner into that same turn in free practice. Literally catching him, and then his name tag literally appeared at the same part of the corner as well. It was a bit strange. The grip does still feel quite bad, though, in these wet conditions, so I think maybe the AI will be alright. And you can see our front tyre was overheating ever so slightly on the right-hand side there, which obviously doesn't help us at all. So here we are up towards the line, then what can we do on this first qualifying lap? So here we are up towards the line. Sasaki goes top. Where are we going to go? A few tenths behind him there, so 6 tenths off Sasaki, actually, so a decent amount off. I did say that the wet weather would probably throw a bit of a spanner in the works, and we wouldn't be on top in the wet conditions, although we're still quicker than on tube by the looks of it, so maybe it's just Sasaki who's gone extra fast, but I do expect that we'll be towards the back end of this session. So towards the line, this lap has been a big improvement, probably put us more towards the front. Where are we going to go? Second place by the looks of it, 2 tenths off Sasaki, because I think Sasaki might have just improved again. We're back up onto the front row. Certainly can't complain about that one in the wet conditions. So once again, we're on for another improvement as we come out of the last corner. This one should put us onto pole position. It does indeed, by 2 tenths of a second there, ahead of Ayumu Sasaki in second place. The AI might be able to strike back, but to be honest, if we're on pole in the wet conditions, that really does send a message. Obviously back in Jerez we qualified quite well in the wet, but pole position really is something else, especially on a higher difficulty than we've ran all season, aside from of course the Portimao race where we did use it. Okay, so in fairness to the AI, I will give them the fact that I wasn't on pole in the rain, but I may as well have been 53 thousandths off of Diogo Moreira's pole position there. I was actually pole position when I did end the session, but I guess some simulated times did come and saved them a little bit. Although, to be fair, they only need to improve by a couple of attempts, which, again, is achievable on circuit, so I don't know which way it goes, but I do feel like maybe it was more on circuit. They also could well have fixed the simulated times in the patch. They probably did if they modified the AI, to be fair to them. So they do seem a bit more accurate, because those were the kind of times that they were doing on track. Although it is worth noting that when I ended the session, Moreira was actually in the pits. So we've seen that bug happen before. That happened in one of Dill's videos, apparently, as well, in the Moto2 class. I think Acosta was in the pits, and he ended up doing a better lap time. So it's a known bug that's in the game. Even when they are in the pits, they actually do better lap times. But even still, it doesn't matter. Second place on the grid. Probably a mostly dry race, if we're being honest. It starts off cloudy. It's going to rain. I think we're in a very good position to win, unless the race is restarted, in which case we might be in a bit of a mess. But I guess we won't find out till we head into it, so without any further ado, let's get into the race. So here we are then, down on the grid for the San Marino Grand Prix, looking at Daniel Holgado in third position. Obviously the new championship leader, although actually I do believe they're tied. I think I actually missed that in the last episode. I saw that Moreira had moved down a spot, but it was just on countback. They're actually still tied on points. So the AI championship battle is really, really interesting. It's a shame that we're not involved in it, really, because it would be really, really good. But to see those two go head to head, I'm actually interested to see which one comes out on top at the end of the season, and of course we'll actually be able to probably have some kind of effect on it as well with us being up here. As in fairness, us battling those guys is a fairly regular occurrence, obviously not every round, but quite regularly. Obviously you can see at the top left, like I said, it is going to start off cloudy and rain. Now of course we have seen in the past where it's actually not rained at all. Like I don't think it's a 100% accurate forecast, so we actually might get a fully dry race here, which perhaps be a boring one. Obviously Misano has been like that over the years. I mean, obviously I know I've been saying it's a lot to do with this patch, but to be fair, I think Misano could have been like this either way. But I believe the issue's probably been exaggerated by this new patch, because like I said, I did test at Catalonia as well, and they did seem slower there. Like I mentioned previously, of course, we do need to try and beat Ortola in this one, because that's a turning point that we do have. And of course, as always, we need to get in the top 15. But to be fair, I don't think we'll have much of an issue with that one. But without any further ado then, we may as well get this race started. And let's hope it's a good battle for the win.
We're ready for action here at the Misano circuit. Eyes on the lights now. The San Marino Grand Prix is about to start.
So there we are then, Moreira on pole position, myself in the middle, Holgado in third place. I'm sandwiched between the two title rivals, but we're waiting for the lights to go out here for the San Marino Grand Prix. Lights out and away we go. They held for a little while there, but not too long. We've seen the hold quite long this season so far in a few races. But there you go. That just gives you the perfect example of the AI. Look how early Moreira broke for turn 1. Wasn't even a competition. And we're already, what, 3/10 clear of him as we go through the first corner? This is the problem, you see. Like, that's nothing to do with the update, I don't believe. I think they were probably already that broken in Misano, because if you saw my flag-to-flag video that we did here in the MotoGP class, they seem to do a similar thing. But I think it's just going to be even worse now. I actually feel like I can see a couple of drops going down already. I don't know if that's just in my head, like, as I'm turning through a corner, I'm seeing a couple of drops, but if it's already started to rain now, it does look like the race will probably get restarted rather than stopped. Obviously you can get either condition in this game. It depends how late into the race it actually rains. If it rains after 2/3, of course, the race is stopped, but quite often I do believe it does rain before half distance, which of course results in the race being restarted, which would shake things up quite a bit, but based on qualifying, we probably won't have to worry too much because our pace did seem pretty good in the wet conditions, but we're already over 2 seconds clear of Diogo Moreira, and we've not even done the first lap. So this is what I was talking about. They have completely ruined the AI. Now again, it probably is going to be worse at this circuit because I think this is probably the circuit where they are the slowest in the game, as we've seen with other videos and as I kind of suspected going in. But now with this nerf, it's even worse because I don't think we would have been 3 seconds clear, especially not 120% AI, because at least we had that option previously. I could have turned the AI up, whereas now I can't, and we are 3 seconds clear at the end of the first lap, and I've still got 10 more to go. How lovely. Now, to be honest, I might just turn the power mode down and see how we get on. I'm going to put it down to 1 and just see how we get on compared to the AI. Of course, they're usually a bit slower on lap 1 compared to other laps. But we'll see. We'll see. If we turn the power mode down, it's probably a bit more even, because if they have messed with the AI's power modes, they probably don't really use much 3 anymore. Whereas I think previous in the races, they were always in 3. I think that was like the bug, which is fair enough, but I feel like they've probably lost more time than you'd actually gain from using power mode 3, because as we've seen before, if you do a really good lap in power mode 2, you can be in touch. Well, so far, power mode 1 isn't making a hell of a lot of difference because we're actually still pulling away from him. We're now nearly 5 seconds in the lead. Sort towards the line then to end the second lap of the race, and we're going to be just over 5 seconds clear. So obviously we gained a lot less. We did a 44.8 and also 43s in practice, if you remember. So clearly the power mode 1 actually does cost you about a second, although I suppose the riding could be part of it as well, and the cloudy conditions. We do know from previous races that you actually go slower in the cloudy conditions due to a lack of grip. But the thing is, even though we're so far in front of Moreira, you can see he's pulled away from the rest of the pack, because I've just looked at the gap to Ortola and it's about 9 seconds. So Ortola's almost as far back from Moreira as I am in front of him. Like, if you look at the minimap, Moreira, actually, to be fair, it's one of those races where we'd be really annoyed because he was clearing off and we'd probably be in the mix. But this time, it's actually me clearing off, and I don't think I can really do much else to slow myself down aside from maybe taking the long lap penalty. I do apologise for seeming like I'm moaning so much in this video, by the way, guys, but you can see why I'm annoyed that this has happened, because previously the races have been fantastic. I don't think we've had a terrible race all season. There's been a good race every single round. I mean, some have been more interesting than others, of course, but generally they've all been quite good. What's this lap time? A 45, so I'm circulating massively off the pace what I could actually do here, and they're still losing time. But I'll try to stop going on about it so much now. We'll just get on with the race. Obviously, we're almost a quarter of the way through the race. Once we complete this lap, we are, so we need to really keep an eye on the 2/3 cut-off, because obviously if it starts to rain after that, the race will just be stopped and it'll be declared a result, and it'll be our first win of the career mode. Let's not forget that we're in the lead of a race. Like, if it stays as it is, and even if it does rain, we're on for a pretty good chance of a victory here, and we haven't won a race yet in this career mode, which is ridiculous to think 14 rounds in, we haven't won a race yet. And as we complete a third of the race distance, we are really looking quite good for it, because it's not long till we get halfway through. Obviously, halfway through isn't enough, but once we get to 2/3 race distance, once we get to the end of lap 8, the race will be over if it does rain. Now, I did actually think it was raining on lap 1, but clearly I was wrong, because I've not seen any more rain since. It must have just been my eyes playing tricks on me. But to be fair, it's quite linear with the way the dynamic weather works. It's a great feature, but you can kind of predict how it's always going to work. Like, it never rains really before half distance. It only rains around half distance and after. Obviously, it does that so that you can get both the different outcomes. Obviously, either the race being stopped and restarted or stopped to declare a result. But it would be nice if it was a bit more, like, dynamic. Like, if you could get rain early on in a race. Or even if you could get, like, multiple. Like, I know obviously a 40-minute race really is a 100% race. So it's not that long, but if you could start a race off wet and it dries up and it starts to rain again, that, like, would be quite interesting. Obviously, that's probably more of a F1 or an endurance thing. But let's say like the track is getting relatively dry, like you'd be thinking about switching for slicks, and then maybe it starts to rain again, you have to stay out. Would also be good to see in like Moto2 and Moto3 actually you'd be able to come in and change your tyres, because obviously that is something you can do in the regulations. Obviously if it's a dry race and it rains, the race is stopped, but if it's a wet race and it dries up, you actually can come into the pits to have your wheels changed in Moto2 and Moto3, and that's not reflected in the game, but if you read the FIM regulations, it is in there. And obviously we have seen races like that pan out before. I feel like Indianapolis 2015 is one of them. I think I might have called it 2014 in one of the previous videos, but I believe it is 2015, because I think Livio Loy was actually the victor of that race on the, I think it was the RW bike actually back then. But in Moto3, of course, rather than Moto2. To be honest, with us being now 7 laps in, well actually we've completed 6 I guess, let's not jump the gun, we've started lap 7. I might turn the engine up and see if we can go for a lap, because obviously running in power mode 1 has not helped us be closed in at all by Moreira, so I wouldn't feel like I'm being unfair against AI. I'd quite like to see potentially a lap. I've just looked at the gap to Ortola as well. We're nearly 20 seconds in front of the rider of 4th place. That is ridiculous. Like, if this race actually gets stopped and restarted, it is actually a robbery. It was a robbery if we don't win it. I mean, I've only just turned it up like partway through this lap, but look how much of a difference it makes. We're half a second, almost 6/10 under. Look how much time you gain. Like, to be fair, perhaps turning down the power modes has obviously, you know, messed with them. They probably are going to lose a significant chunk of lap time. But when I put my power mode back to match them, then it should revert to how it was previously. But obviously it doesn't. Like, obviously when we're both using power mode 3, it should be the same as when we're both using power mode 1, but they weren't gaining back on me, so clearly they've done more than change what they've said they've changed, basically. But I would suggest that this race is just going to either go to the end in dry conditions, or it's just going to get stopped now if it rains, because we're about to start the 8th lap, and it usually takes about a lap once the rain starts for it to get wet enough for the race to be stopped. So I'd say as long as we keep it rubber side down, we are going to win this race. Just a 44.0 on that lap. That's how much time you gain from power mode 3, because we weren't really riding any better. So here we are then, that's 2/3 race distance completed, 43.6 on that lap. Again, obviously with the dodgy sector 1 as well, so there's still more time on the table. But if it rains now, we are victorious. The race will not be restarted. And it doesn't actually look like it's raining yet, so I think it will actually be one of those races where it just doesn't happen. Obviously, like I said, it is possible. The weather forecasts aren't 100% accurate, I don't believe. I think sometimes they say that it might rain, but it doesn't always rain. We have seen that happen in the career mode before. I've got to have had enough of my time attack enjoyment now. We've done a 43.4, so that's our fastest of the weekend. We may as well just try to bring it on home, although to be honest, if we crashed, we'd be in absolutely no trouble at all anyway. You can see again though, like I said before, that if you're in power mode 2, you can actually stay relatively in touch. We're only about a 10th off. This is what I mean about the power modes. It's clearly more than a power mode change that the AI have had. Well, if you look at the mini-map here, right, we're about half a lap in front of those AI behind. So if we had a 100% race, we'd actually be lapping people towards the end. And bear in mind, we've ran in power mode 1 for most of this race and slowed ourselves down deliberately as well. So if we just ran power mode 2 normally throughout this whole race, we'd definitely lap people if we did 100%, which is... It shouldn't happen. Like, lapping people doesn't happen in motorbike racing, really, unless you've crashed or had a mechanical failure. So here we are then, about to start the final lap of the race. If we just keep on board through this one, we're finally going to get a race win in this career mode, which I just can't believe it's taken so long. Like, you're thinking Misano. This is the first time that we've won a race. And it's just a shame as well, because I can't even enjoy it. I mean, I can't even call it a race. I'm like 30 seconds up the road. I can't believe it. Like, but I'm happy to finally get the duck off my back. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that, you know, finally I can say, oh look, I won a race. And to be fair, I've clearly deserved it. I don't think you can say that I didn't deserve the win, but it's just a shame that it took the AI being completely nerfed for that to happen. I feel like we could have got a win eventually on the AI settings that we had before, but obviously just not to be, unfortunately. And you can only play the game that you've got. But I tell you what, we've just gone over 30 seconds in front of Moreira. I mean, that is ridiculous, to win a race by 30 seconds when it's not even wet. I've won races by massive margins in career modes before, but that's generally when there's bugs where they're all crashing. But Moreira has not had a single crash in this race. He's been on board the whole time. And to be honest, compared to the other AI, he's had a fantastic race. He's actually slowly lost time to Ortola. Ortola's actually gained back on him over the course of the last few laps, but he lost too much time early on. But enough about them. We're coming out the last corner to win our first race here in MotoGP 23 career mode. So there you go then, our first race win, the team's first race win as well there. 33.2 seconds ahead of Diogo Moreira in second position. I don't know what to say. I kind of don't have anything to say. You guys saw it. I put it on 120% AI before the start of this race. I haven't adjusted it since. This is genuinely what they're like. Obviously, you know, if you're following the series, you know I'm not going to just turn the AI down massively to try and win a race. Clearly, you know, I've been trying to match it the whole season so that it's competitive, and then milestone packs the game and do this. But I'm not going to keep moaning about it. I'm just going to take the glory off the win. Look at the domination. And I'll tell you what, I want to check the gap to our teammate. Where is Scott Ogden down the order? 27th place, a minute and 17 behind. We definitely would have lapped them. We definitely would have lapped Ogden and Carrasco. We definitely would have lapped Ogden and Carrasco if it was on 100% race, because they're almost a minute and 20 behind anyway, so we only needed to gain about, what, 25 more seconds on them, and obviously we did a minute and nearly a minute and 25 in a 50% race, so I would say probably another maybe like 7 laps, we probably would have caught them up, to be honest, so yeah, it's quite interesting. It's a shame that you don't get extra points for winning by a massive margin, because we really could do with them, would help us out, although to be fair, speaking of the championship, we've beat Sasaki by a decent amount there. We've gained like probably like 10 points on him. And where is Artigas actually? Down at 14th. So we've gained like almost a race wins worth on Artigas. So to be fair, it has done us really good for the championship this race. Speaking of said championship, then Diogo Moreira, of course, retakes the lead with his second place finish there. Tied on points going into the race, like I said, with Holgado. Don't know how I missed that last time, actually. I just saw the down 1 arrow and we're like, oh my god, the championship lead's changed. And then didn't even realise that they were tied on points, which is probably more interesting than the lead just changing itself. So like I say, then Moreira now leads 4 points ahead of Holgado in second position. 38 points clear of Ortola in third place. Now only 77 back to us. So like I was saying in the previous episode, since we realised we were about 80 points behind, we've basically been around that. And we're finally making some inroads. We're finally below 80 points. But I tell you what though, we're actually not that far behind Ortola. He's 38 points off them, like I said, which is, you know, if we say about 40, say I'm about 75, 35 points, add the 4, 39 points. So I'm actually as far away from Ortola as Ortola is from Moreira virtually. So it's pretty close. So we could genuinely beat Ortola. If we do go on a good run of races, we actually could get the top 3, which, considering our start to the season, the amount of races we were out of the points, I'd absolutely take. Moving on to the Teams Championship then, nothing actually changes here. We have closed up a lot to Untitled GP. Of course, my first race win of the season, the team's first race win, has helped us out quite a lot. But of course, I am basically the only rider bringing home any points. In fact, I think all 155 of those points are mine. I don't think Scott has scored any. So it is a one-rider team, effectively, battling against some 2-rider teams. Although, to be fair, some of the guys at the top of the order, their teammates haven't been doing anything. Farioli hasn't done really anything all season. Asman's actually probably been the best teammate out of the lot, and he's only got 38 points himself. So it's obviously the number 1 riders really carrying the teams in these championships. But there you go then, that's the San Marino Grand Prix, our first race win of the season. And of course, with us beating Ortola in that one, we have actually achieved the turning point. So we will have another turning point once we go back to the career hub. And of course, we'll probably get some new social media messages because we haven't won a race so far. I imagine there'll be people congratulating us or being a bit salty about us winning. I guess we'll have to find out. So let's head back to the career hub and see what's waiting for us. Well, so we actually gained a lot of reputation from this weekend then, 5,200 RP. We got 3,000 as a bonus. I guess that's for probably achieving both of the objectives. We got 1,950 for finishing in the top 10. I thought the objective was top 15, but I think because we've actually achieved this turning point, I think our objectives have now gone up a little bit. So we're actually probably going to get a little bit more reputation and a slightly higher result to achieve. And then you only get 250 extra for a race win, which is a bit of a joke. But now we're pretty close to pro, and if we had another weekend like that, we actually should get into pro in the next round. But as you can see, we have completed the New Horizons of Glory turning point, so we should unlock another one now. So a fierce duel. Finish in front of Ivan Ortola in the standings. Competition on track with Ivan Ortola is increasingly fierce. Bikers should finish in front to demonstrate who's the best. Well, that's pretty much impossible. I've got 3 rounds to break, like, what is it, a third? Did we calculate a 38 points, 39 points the gap? How am I supposed to bring that back in 3 rounds? 3! I think we might fail this turning point, guys. A strange episode. I mean, to be fair, if he crashes in one of the races and we win it, then maybe it is possible. We've got 2 messages here on the social media, and we've got Jao Masia. He says, great race for Biker. Unfortunately, we're missing something to compete, but we'll try again at Motegi. Congratulations. So, of course, with him being a rider that we get on with, he's going to congratulate us for the win. Of course, we're going to respond with something really nice. It's been a really good weekend, rounded off in the best possible way. We'll continue to work with the team to get ready for the next race. So we'll be nice to Masia, and now he really likes us, so we've really built up a good rapport with Masia. And look how much sort of a season makes a difference, I guess, to Scott Ogden. He says, what a great race from Biker. I can't think of a better way to get your first win. So, of course, when we first started out, all he did was make negative comments about us. He got really angry at us at one point, actually, really started to dislike us. But then the relationship actually returned to neutral, and it'll probably become positive because we'll give him, obviously, a nice response because, of course, he is cheering us on for getting a win. I'm not going to reply in a negative manner to that one. So we'll say thank you. It's a day I'll remember for a long time. But there we go, then that is all the social media stuff responded to, and of course we've now got a new turning point, which is to beat Ortola in the championship, and the gap is 39 points as you can see on screen, so that's going to be pretty much impossible. I don't know how they've decided that we're going to get that. I mean, I guess it's like looked at, just been like, oh, beat the guy ahead of you in the championship, but he's literally 40 points clear. You can only pick up 75. It's like... we almost have to we have to basically score the perfect 75 and hope he doesn't score very well. It's gonna be pretty difficult. I don't think we're gonna do it. But hopefully you were able to enjoy that video regardless. If you are new to the channel, please do stick around. Hopefully all the races won't be this boring, and I'll be bringing plenty more MotoGP 23 game content to entertain you. Of course, career mode, but also some other game modes. Perhaps try to do more of those as well if the career mode is a little bit less enjoyable. Live GP, for example, online races, game experiments as well. Some of those I do need to get to higher classes in career mode first to actually do those. Obviously, I'll also do some modding experiments as well, so do stick around if any of those things do sound interesting to you. But yeah, like I said, I hope you did enjoy that one regardless. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. I hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.